You let them think they won. They laughed when you went silent. They mistook your stillness for surrender. They mistook your distance for defeat. They mistook your patience for weakness. And you let them think they won. Because sometimes the loudest power move is silence. Sometimes the greatest revenge is not retaliation, it is transformation. They thought when you walked away, you were walking into loneliness. They thought when you stopped arguing, you had no more fight left in you. They thought when you stopped explaining yourself, you had finally accepted their version of you. But what they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, is that you were not retreating. You were recalibrating. You were gathering storms inside your chest. You were becoming something they would never be able to control again. Expectation versus reality. They expected you to crumble. They expected you to beg for closure, to send one more message, to knock on one more door, to plead for one more chance. They expected you to chase, because that's what you used to do, right? You used to fight for people who barely lifted a finger for you. You used to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You used to carry relationships on your back while they took the credit for the journey. They thought that pattern would continue. They thought your heart was too soft to detach, too loyal to walk away, too forgiving to remember the pain. But reality is colder than their expectations. Reality is that something shifted inside you. One night, in the quiet, when no one was watching, you felt it. A crack in the illusion, a voice that whispered, "Enough." And that whisper became a decision, not loud, not dramatic, not announced, just decided. They expected tears, they got silence. They expected chaos, they got calm. They expected you to collapse under the weight of their betrayal. But instead, you stood taller under it. You let them think they won, because you knew something they didn't. You knew you were about to rebuild. Transformation, phase 1, the fire. They didn't see. You didn't transform in the spotlight. You transformed in the dark. In the early mornings when doubt tried to sit beside you. In the late nights when memories knocked like ghosts at your door. In the moments when your chest felt heavy and the temptation to go back whispered sweet lies. That's where you fought. That's where you faced yourself. You faced the part of you that tolerated disrespect. The part of you that feared being alone more than being undervalued. The part of you that thought love meant sacrifice without boundaries. And you burned it, not with anger, but with awareness. You started asking different questions. Why was I chasing people who never chose me? Why was I explaining myself to those who enjoyed misinterpreting me? Why was I shrinking so others could feel taller? Every question was a spark, and slowly, those sparks became fire. You began to build discipline. You began to protect your energy. You began to choose peace over pride. You stopped reacting, and that confused them because they were waiting for your explosion. They wanted drama. They wanted noise. They wanted proof that they still mattered enough to disturb your peace. But you gave them nothing. No outburst. No revenge speech. No public breakdown. Just growth. And growth is quiet at first, like roots digging deep into soil before the tree dares to rise. You started investing in yourself, reading, learning, training, healing, pouring into the version of you that had been neglected for too long. You started saying no, and that no felt like a revolution. You stopped over-explaining. You stopped over-giving. You stopped over-apologizing for taking up space. You realize something powerful. You don't need to announce your transformation. You just become. And one day, without realizing it, you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. Not because you were broken, but because you were rebuilt. Stronger spine, sharper mind, calmer heart. They thought you were losing when you walked away. But you were shedding illusions, shedding dependency, shedding the need for validation from people who never valued you. And you let them think they won, because you knew the real battle was internal, and you were winning it. Conflict reaction, the shift they felt. At first, they didn't notice. They were too busy celebrating their victory, too busy telling themselves they were better off without you, too busy convincing others that you were the problem. But then, they felt it. the shift. They noticed you weren't watching their stories anymore. You weren't reacting to their bait. You weren't responding to their subtle attempts to provoke you. Your silence became unsettling. Your peace became suspicious. Your absence became loud. Did they really think you would stay broken forever? Did they really believe their rejection defined your worth? Did they honestly assume you would spend your life trying to prove yourself to people who already made up their minds? No. Now they watch from a distance. They see you glowing in ways they can't explain. They see you building in ways they can't interrupt. They see you smiling in ways that don't involve them, and it unsettles them. Because power has shifted. Once you were the one waiting for their message. Now they are the ones checking if you're still available. Once you feared losing them. Now they fear realizing what they lost. And the irony? You're not even trying to make them jealous. You're not performing success for their attention. You're just free. And freedom is magnetic. They thought your silence meant defeat, but it meant detachment. They thought your calm meant weakness, but it meant mastery. You stopped fighting for a seat at their table and built your own. Now they stand outside wondering how you built it so fast. But they didn't see the nights you doubted yourself. They didn't see the discipline it took to not text back. They didn't see the tears you swallowed so your future self could breathe. They only see the result. They see the crown, but they never saw the war. Transformation, Phase 2, the crown of indifference. Here's the part they never anticipated. You stopped caring about winning. You stopped caring about being right. You stopped caring about proving them wrong. That's when you became unstoppable. Because the moment you no longer need validation, you become dangerous. You walk differently now, not with arrogance, but with certainty. You don't rush to explain your boundaries. You don't beg for understanding. You don't chase closure from people who never gave you clarity. You found closure within yourself, and that is power. You realized that revenge isn't about destruction. It's about elevation. You don't need to see them struggle. You don't need to see them regret. You don't need an apology to move forward. Your success is not built on their downfall. It's built on your discipline. You started mastering your emotions. When they tried to provoke you, you smiled. When they tried to compete, you focused. When they tried to return, you evaluated. Because you're not the same person they once manipulated. You've studied your weaknesses. You've strengthened your boundaries. You've learned that access to you is a privilege, not a right. And now, you are selective. You choose environments that water you. You choose conversations that respect you. You choose people who celebrate you without secretly competing with you. You are no longer available for half-hearted energy. And that shift is louder than any argument you could have had. They may still think they won. But what exactly did they win? Temporary ego? A false sense of control? A story they tell themselves to sleep at night? Meanwhile, you gained clarity. You gained discipline. You gained self-respect. And self-respect is priceless. Every time you chose silence over drama, you leveled up. Every time you chose healing over revenge, you evolved. Every time you chose yourself over toxic attachment, you reclaimed your power. You let them think they won because you were playing a different game. They were playing checkers, you were playing chess, and chess requires patience, strategy, sacrifice. You sacrificed your need to be understood. You sacrificed your urge to respond. You sacrificed temporary satisfaction for long-term peace. And now you move like a king or a queen, not loud, not desperate, just composed. Storms don't announce themselves. They gather, and when they arrive, the world feels it.